Thank you. Okay, carrying on. Item number 3 is the Chief Executive's report. Chief Executive is unfortunately ill today, but in his absence, Mr. Alan Menhenant, Chief Financial Officer, will report.
Thank you. As far as the CEO's report is concerned, I'll take that as read. I just noticed that there's 136 submissions stated in the annual plan, but it's actually 141, but that was a moving beast at the time of doing the report. But the management team here are only too happy to answer any questions that you may raise out of the CEO's written report. This is before we get into the financial.
Councillor Buddy. Yes, there is. I'm not sure that it will be recorded here on 313 or 316. It's in relationship to the overdraft.
Oh, excuse me. What I'm talking about here is just pages 1 to 3 at this stage, and then we'll move into the financials.
Any questions and queries on page 1 to 3? Okay, carry on.
Right. You'll see that the financial update to the 30th of April, where Council is still tracking very well compared with budget, and the year-end forecast still shows us as being in a favourable position. Maybe if I just touch on a couple of points as we go through, and then we can come back to answer any particular questions. If we look at the monthly Treasury Management Report, you'll find that most things are favourable. And what is of interest here is that the return on the TEL fund is still greater than the average cost of borrowing for the year. We've done a little bit of work on that. We brought the management of the TEL fund in-house during the 2007-2008 financial year. Since then, year on year, the return on the TEL fund has been greater than the average cost of borrowing in each year. And this is right through the global financial crisis. The extent of that is that in those 6+ years, the interest return on the TEL fund has been $6.5 million more than the interest that we paid on our borrowing. Added to that, during that time, we've subsidised rates to the extent of $27.5 million. Now, I'll just give you that background to show that this information that forms this monthly Treasury Management Report is what we've extracted that information from. It's not something that's just been pulled together. So this information, these financial reports and the capital report and the Treasury Management Report are very important tools in your toolbox as far as governance is concerned. And it's something just to keep in mind as you head into deliberations. Following on from that is the project performance report, and the management team here are only too happy to answer any questions on that, and in conjunction with any questions you have on the remaining parts of the CEO's paper.
I would really like that information to be advertised to the public of Taupo, that rate reduction over those years. I think people don't realise just how that TEL fund is used.
We've deliberately held back from sharing that information until after the hearings. I apologise that there's another day of hearings ahead of us, but I didn't want that information to colour any questions that were being asked of the submitters.
But we are going to...
We will give you a hard copy of that information.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Buddy. Just wanted to raise that question, Mr. Chair, Your Worship, in regard to 3/13, in regard to the overdraft,
we have another overdraft which actually states the figure. But if I remember, Mr. Ward was answering some of those questions, and I briefly went back to webcam to find out what was said, and it was along the lines that the problem would be eliminated and thereby would not be an overdraft again. But I see that we are. I just want a bit of clarification of that.
Thank you, Councillor. Yeah, absolutely correct in that statement, and it's a timing thing. So what I was explaining at the last meeting is that we have negotiated with the bank what is called a sweep account. So that's happened. Sorry, that was implemented post this incident. So from the following report is probably would have been a better statement at the last meeting. That will not happen again because we have what's called a nightly sweep occurring where the bank just goes through and looks at the balances that's in the account, be it a debit or a credit, and it just makes it zero and transfers it to the savings account. I hope that clarifies the...
Thank you for that. The second question is, that was raised previously by Councillor Jolins. I noticed that this particular ANZ investment that we have, with the BBB plus rating, is in fact now has $10 million, not 5. I think we really need to find out what's that BBB rating actually mean, because as I've expressed in the past, I get nervous when it's below the policy that this council adopted.
That's right. That's all right, I'll sit up straight. Always been told off for slouching. Okay, so the particular bond in question is, as I say, BBB plus rated. It's still investment grade. The council, as I think we've said previously, has passed what's called an exception resolution for that particular bond, given the underlying support, if you like, of the ANZ Bank, which is, off the top of my head, I believe a minus rated, I think. I think I've got that right. So it's certainly within policy. So I'm trying to, I guess, understand the concern and sorry, what further information we can provide council to give you some comfort around. I mean, fundamentally, it's about the return of capital. Obviously, is the concern. I'm not sure what further information we can give.
Well, the real difficulty I have as a new councillor, not being in the last council when this decision was made, we have a policy on where we invest, but the ratings of those investments, and this is outside that policy. To me, that therefore is a breach of the policy, unless we change our policy to take in that lower rating, should we be doing it? Because if it turns turtle, and I respect the comments from Councillor Jolins in regards of some of the outlooks, we're the guys in the firing line. And if I have to go back to the people of the Taupo District and say, well, we mucked up on this one, unfortunately we're liable. And we're not liable to the degree of making a mistake. Therefore, I need clarification. We either stay with that investment, and you indicated last month we could not necessarily stay with it, or we change the policy to accept it.
I'll hand this one over to Alan to provide further clarification.
The revenue and financing policy, which incorporates the treasury management policy, has been set by council. Council has the discretion at any particular point in time to step outside that policy. In doing so, it must be done by means of a formal resolution of council. That is what council has done in respect of its own policy and this particular investment. Any change of that nature would require a rescinding of the resolution of council, and the facts would be put forward to council. Now, should that be the wish of the Mayor as the person who sets the agenda for the next council meeting to have a paper of that nature on that agenda, then so be it. That's what staff will adhere to. But the point I make is that the policy is a council policy, and council has the discretion to step outside its policy if it follows the right formal procedure. And that has occurred in more than one occasion.
Thank you.
Councillor Jolins.
Just to clarify from Councillor Body, the point that I was trying to make last last month that I wanted to see was just a review of that situation, that resolution to step outside the council policy. I understand that, but that was done in March last year. We're a year and a half into it. I have some concerns about where financially the global economy is heading again in the next 18 months. I just want a sense check and a review to make sure that that is the right place to have it. I'm not questioning the policy or stepping outside of it. I just would like a review done a year into it just to make sure that it's still as sound as it was when you made the decision last March. Is that clear?
We are at the discretion of the chair.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions?
Councillor Cousins?
Service part.
Yep.
A little bit minor compared to what we've just said. But some of the regulatory services highlights. Sorry, 3/23. This says all dog control complaints are responded to in time, 2,337, blah blah blah. Responded to, but I don't know if the issue with stray dogs in this district is getting any better. So we might be responding to them in time, but I don't know if we're dealing with the issues of stray dogs. I suppose I'm asking, are we tightening up anything in regards to that? Because the issues aren't getting any better.
Yeah.
Would Mr. Greaves like to comment to that?
Thank you. So this stat, I guess, is more just in relation to the first initial response. Right. So where there's a sort of response back to a customer. But yeah, you did right, and we've talked about that in the past, and we have a number of initiatives that we're looking at doing. We have started, and we will be continuing to do to address the dog issue.
I suppose my point is that it's great to have that we're responding really fast, but what's the end result from those responding really fast? That's we discussed this. I just want to bring to council's attention that we need to monitor that a little bit better. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you. Councillor Stewart.
I'd just like to add to that in Turangi we do have an issue with dogs, and I know it's hard to find them, but I do think that something needs to be looked at, just to do a concerted effort to sort the dog thing out every now and again, because it does seem to get out of control.
Councillor Park.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just firstly would just like to commend the CEO on changing the format of the report. It's far easier to read and understand. And secondly, under economic development on 3/22, it talks about post-event surveys undertaken and economic impact assessments completed for 8 major events. Do we get to see those, or can we see those?
Yeah, so those, the events, as you know, there's something like 300 and something events throughout the district.
Yeah, just these 8.
So they'll range from just a desktop analysis, where we'll get a post-event report, say for something like the Taniwha, where the event organisers will do it themselves, or we'll conduct it for them. So I'll have a chat to Nick and Helen and see just what's available.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Right. Okay. Item number 3. So anyone happy with that? Is there a suggested resolution there?
Mr. Chairman, if I can, and I'll take the comments from Councillor Park in terms of the report, but if there are any other comments in terms of the report format, or in terms of things you'd like to see, then we're more than happy to receive that outside of this meeting. We'll try to make it more visual and user-friendly, but if there's other information you want, please just let me know.
Thank you, Mr. Green. Okay, can I have a mover for the Chief Executive's report? Moved by Councillor Cousins, seconded by Councillor Park. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against? Carried.